By popular demand, Place to Be Nation Wrestling returns to the Dirty South for Talk'n WCW, an episodic wrestler showcase designed to educate, evaluate, and entertain, with matches spanning the intimate stage of Techwood Studios to the heights of Space Mountain. Talk'n WCW presents the best, worst, and most surreal offerings from World Championship Wrestling. So cast your gaze to the Turnertron with hosts Jennifer Smith, Tim Capel, and Greg Phillips.
Oh my! What happened to my car? Go back! Where are you? Go back! Go back! Go back!
Hey Moses, where's my car, man?
Space 22, man.
22.
22! Oh man! Oh man! Oh man! Oh man! Go back! Where are you? Why me? Why me? Why me?
Hi, welcome to Talk'n WCW. My name is Jennifer Smith. I'm here with my co-host, the boomer to my sooner, Tim Capel. How you doing, Tim?
Oh, hey Jenny. Didn't realize there was a Boomer Sooner edition of Talking WCW here.
Well,
So,
JR
hey,
likes to pop up, so
I'll
I
take
figured
it.
why not?
JR does like to pop up. I wonder if do we have JR with us in our third seat tonight? Sometimes
Yeah. This reminds me of some
Okay.
of that. This reminds me of some of that sassafras bullshit.
Oh,
You right, JR. You're right.
Not something I would ever say, but something that Conrad and Brucey like to do because they like to stir the shit. They like to get the dirt.
I think JR's
That's
had a
what we
few
like to
mules
do.
tonight. Yeah.
Well, I'm getting on Twitter, doing
Yeah.
things he ain't supposed to do, or
Click
X,
this,
whatever
Yeah.
the fuck it is now.
click this, drag that.
It's all bullshit.
Like
www.
this.
JR's horny on Maine again.
Woo,
How about
Yeah.
let me live my fucking life?
Let this man live.
you hot tonight. Well, it was just good because it's going to be an angry ass episode. Because we are talking about one insane angry man, Sid
Yeah.
Vicious.
Yeah. Sid Vicious.
Great name.
Sometimes known as Sid Justice,
Mhm,
Sometimes
sometimes
it's
known as
Psycho,
Psycho Sid. Yeah,
mhm.
the big, the
But,
bad, the vicious Sid.
right.
Shawn Michaels once introduced him.
Yeah,
Which name do y'all
yeah.
like the best? I like Sid Vicious.
I like Sid Vicious. I mean, I realize it's a bit of a ripoff, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
what?
I like Sid
It
Vicious.
suits him.
Certainly better than Sid Justice. I didn't mind Psycho Sid though. I think
That's pretty cool.
Sid was a powerful enough name on its own.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But especially when he had the big, the pyro that would go off that would spell off
Yeah.
spell his name in the back.
Psycho. That was cool.
That's right. Psycho. Yeah.
But no, he's I'm a Sid Vicious guy too. That's how I was introduced to him, and so that's how I always thought Sid Justice was kind of a corny name.
Yeah. It's done.
Yeah, it is a little bit. This was my pick, and I really just the only things I really have known about Sid is just crazy promos, not very good in ring, and for some reason Goldberg likes to crush up his car. So that was where I was at
Yeah.
with Sid.
Yeah. That was a
That kind of
recurring theme.
covered.
Yeah.
You covered the reasons that we like Sid because
Right.
Sid's not a tactician. Sid's not
Mm.
technically sound. Sid's not going to be confused with a Funk and Briscoe or a Flair and Steamboat. But what Sid had was his Sidness.
Of course.
No one is more
Mm.
Sid in the history of wrestling than and he was himself, and there was only one. And yes, he did have unfortunate luck with rental cars, but that's perhaps should be taken up with the authorities since Goldberg, to my knowledge, Tim, was never arrested for any of these crimes.
Yeah, I think he walked away on both counts of rental car destruction.
Ridiculous.
Have to be. I hope Sid got the insurance on the rental cars, but you
I
never know
sure
with
hope
these
so.
wrestlers.
If not, that would be a real dick move for the supposedly heroic Goldberg.
Right. Right.
For those that don't know what we're
Well,
talking about, Goldberg was angry at Sid, and so his way of getting revenge was to first week he had his car towed. The second week he had his car flattened, and the third week somehow he had the car turned into a cube.
It was
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
This did not go over well with Sid.
Why
Quite
me?
the
Why
escalation.
me?
My favorite was his realization in the one where he's getting,
Yes.
hey there, Maurice, where's my car? Lot 22.
22.
Lot 20. Lot 22.
22.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
He was so
No.
goofy. I mean, he's so huge, right? And it's
And he,
scary looking. And he just like runs over
He's
there
like a
like Feeny.
cartoon.
Yeah,
and
it's
he,
Yeah, he's
so
he
like a
jumps on the
cartoon
scary.
cube
character.
and he's doing the Yosemite Sam up on the Goldberg.
And
Gold.
this was like how they, by the way, this was like how they built their intense blood feud
Yes,
to
Great.
a match we're gonna actually be talking about. So
absolutely.
uh
They're feuding,
yeah.
and he's telling Goldberg he's going to lose his opportunity. And he's shouting and he's spitting, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. I don't know why. Like, eh, I don't typically like to watch people spit when they speak, but there's something about it. I really don't mind it. Uh, all right, we'll
He
go
does the
to.
quiet loud thing really good where
Yes,
Oh yeah, like that
he does
restrained
that
anger.
the manic over the top,
Yeah,
like the master and ruler of the world type shit, where
yeah,
it's like very prototypical wrestler, and
oh yeah,
then
yeah.
he all of a sudden he twists it on you. He does that like barely speaking through gritted teeth, like
Yes,
yeah.
whisper
yes.
Like
promo
When I
style.
like
get you
Macho
in the
Man.
ring, Hulk Hogan, I'm gonna show you that I am
Exactly.
and the ruler of the world.
Keeps it compelling.
He
He
does, yeah.
does.
One of my favorite promos of his was WrestleMania 8 when he calls Mean Gene a stupid fat little oaf.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Well, I never.
William
Fat
Wordsworth
little
couldn't have
oaf.
said it better.
All right, this is gonna be
Incredible human
fun.
being.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
start it out with a bang. Um, what do we got in the first match,
We're
Tim?
we're gonna we're gonna start out with some engines revving, I believe,
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Um WCW tradition right here.
and that of course is Road Wild 1999.
Some would say the worst WCW pay-per-view ever. I
What?
wouldn't say that.
Who would say
No,
that?
never. I saw this pay-per-view for free. I think I've told this story.
Mhm.
Going on vacation at the Outer Banks, where I spent many a childhood summer vacation growing up, and for whatever reason, the place we rented, it was just a beach. It wasn't on the beach, but it was
Mhm.
modest little house for a week, and they, I guess, had pay-per-view capabilities, and for whatever reason, it was like already ordered. We didn't order it, but it was like if you
Weird.
went to, when you would, this is back in the days of Scramble Vision, when you would go
Mhm.
to the pay-per-view channel and at least get the audio. Well, got the video as well. So
Oh wow.
yeah, got to watch this live like the first day. It was like a Sunday to Sunday sort of stay. So got to watch it the first night we got in. Um, what a treat, right? So that did cut out at some point, like midweek. But I also remember watching Jenny, the faculty on that pay-per-view
Oh, I love
channel.
that movie.
Good movie.
Yeah, how about
All
it?
right. So this was my pick. I I love this show because I love all the shows, all the Road Wilds from
Mm,
Sturgis, because it's insane and it's outdoors wrestling, which I have like a huge soft spot for.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like a beach setting, but like more wild because these people they're hardcore. Like
Oh,
they're bikers and they are just there to have fun, right? So they're
Mhm.
just they don't give two shits about the wrestling. So they get handsy with the wrestlers. They're all kinds of uncouth, okay? And I love
Right.
it.
Some would say a little bit racist, perhaps, but
Well, yes, I
depends.
don't love that part.
Your mileage may vary.
Some might say.
All right. So we
But
got a
we,
video package to start it
yep.
out. And so that just kind of talks about Sting. This is versus Sting. I don't know if I said that. A lot of
Yes, this is Sid versus Sting. Yep.
yeah, a lot of people recommended this match to me. So we got Sid calling himself Millennial Man because obviously we're going
Hmm.
to be going into the year 2000. I don't know. How do y'all feel about that little uh, tacked on phrase?
I mean, refresh me, Tim. Was he doing that
Hmm.
before or after Jericho was doing it? I can't remember.
Okay, so Sid came back. I mean, not long before this. I think he returned at the end of that Great American Bash pay-per-view. Remember he power bombs Kevin Nash. Comes in
That's
like out of nowhere at the end of the pay-per-view. It was really awesome. And that would have been in June. This is now August, so he's only been back for 2 months, really, or a month and some change, I guess. Um, so that's pretty cool. And I think he had like, when does Jericho debut? In August?
Jericho had to be August, right? Early August, maybe.
Yeah. So I think
So
I'm pretty sure like WCW's pay-per-views were normally before WWF's in the same month, right? So I'm sure this is taking place before SummerSlam. So
yeah,
yeah, I think he's probably doing that
before.
millennial gimmick before,
Yeah. So
Jericho has yet to debut. So yeah.
reason I bring that up for those that may not know is that Sid was calling himself the Millennium Man, as was later Chris Jericho. So you actually had a character on each show referring to himself as the Millennium Man.
Mm.
So it was kind of a weird thing. It probably wasn't necessary for somebody as well known as Sid, but it didn't bother me. I mean, everybody was
Hmm.
trying at that time in pop culture. Everybody was trying to play off of the whole fact that we were about to enter a new millennium. So it made sense. Maybe
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't the best fit for the title, the moniker, but it didn't really bother me. I don't know of anybody that called him that. Like everybody's,
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
I was
yeah, exactly.
surprised to hear it.
yeah, it was just
And
Sid.
he had been away for a long time, admittedly. The last time you would have seen him in WCW at least was what, 93?
93, yeah, end of 93.
So yeah, I mean, not to say that people weren't obviously watching him in WWF, but I mean, it'd been since shit. He left what, like mid early summer '97 WWF. I
Yeah,
mean,
all he
still
done in the interim, I think, was a little ECW run that he might
a
have had
little ECW. Yep,
in
that's in
'98,
there.
a very short run.
But that is so typical Sid. You get him for these like 7 to 9 month bursts, and then he goes away for a year. Comes back, you get another one. Goes
Mm.
away for a year. That is just the story of his entire career, at least in the big two.
Yep.
All right, so we got Sting coming out, and okay, so the Sting's in a black singlet, and he has the scorpions on either side going down. Rank this look. How do y'all
Hmm.
how do y'all like this?
Um. Well, my thought is, in my Sting pantheon of looks, I still like Surfer Sting the best
Hmm.
on the
Hmm.
look. I would say if you're talking about the in-ring look, not the obviously trench coat rafter Sting was pretty freaking
Hmm.
cool,
Yeah.
but as far as in the ring, I think this was a huge improvement on his 1998 look. Personally, I think
Yeah.
he was in
Yeah.
better shape. You could see he was in better shape.
It looks good.
Yeah, his hair was
Hmm.
good and all that stuff and on point. And he was wrestling with energy again, where his originally he was trying to do the whole like brooding thing, and also he was
Hmm.
having what is constantly referred to by JR as demons, Conrad. And
Right.
so he had gotten over those by mid and so I think he's in good shape. I would put this probably second on my list of Sting
Really?
ring looks.
Wow. Okay.
I think I go Surfer, 99 Sting, and then we're not going to broach the topic of TNA Sting yet, but
Okay. All right.
we had
Joker Sting.
he had
Joker.
looks in TNA that I thought were pretty cool. Bound for Glory,
Yeah.
2006.
hmm With
Um,
the I like the red jacket with the
yeah,
like the Sergeant Pepper thing going on. Like
me
that was
too.
pretty cool.
And I liked
Um.
the one match he wrestled, which was I think was Bound for Glory '06, the one that he wrestled without the singlet top. I thought was
Oh
kind of.
yeah, yeah.
Then he started wearing the singlet, and then it was like he didn't really have to. He was in good shape, but I never thought that was the best look for him. But what can you do?
He rocks this one.
Yeah,
I really like this look too. Honestly, it's what you still would consider Crow Sting, right,
yeah,
Greg?
definitely.
But honestly, like compared to '98, the original Crow Sting, that was more about character and image and the personality, which says a lot. But in terms of
Yeah,
like when he had to actually perform, it didn't work
Mm.
so well back then. So yeah, he's much more motivated here. He notably he has proper wrestling boots that are not falling apart and taped back together like when he returned earlier in the year in '99. That wasn't the best look, but he's gotten it together now. More importantly, though, you guys, he's got a tan. He's not
Hmm.
all
which
pale and
they
pasty.
could have put the title on him that night.
They should have put the title on him. Look how tan he is. I mean,
Yeah.
fuck.
All
And
What are you
right.
doing?
the one thing that also helped his look too, and his whole presentation at that time, was the theme music, which is of course edited out on Peacock, but it was Metallica "Seek and Destroy," and
Oh, sweet.
it kind of matched his increase in energy. It was almost like he was marrying the Surfer Sting to the Crow Sting, and that's
Mm,
honestly kind of what the character was
Hmm.
for the rest of his career, even to this day. Is like
That
a
makes sense.
hybrid of the
yeah.
two.
I'm proud of y'all for not going off on a complete tangent when I asked two Sting marks about Sting attire, because that could have been a whole podcast in and of
Look,
itself.
didn't ask
So
about Sting ass, so
I
Yeah.
have a
Well, we
note.
could talk
I
about
have a
Sting
note.
after.
Sting ass in full effect. So
hmm hmm
I will
It's
always note
necessary.
ass.
It's a
Yes.
performance enhancer.
it
Well, and
is.
the way that the scorpions are, it looks like hands grabbing his ass. So
Oh.
I appreciated that detail.
Uh-huh. Got to
Oh,
grip
Um,
the Sting ass. Yeah.
uh, Sid, on the other hand, just looks fucking huge and
Oh
burly,
god.
and I mean he's lean as fuck, but
is it
he
not
is
crazy?
just giant.
Is it not crazy how Sid's look never changed in the course of like 10 years? Like the dude,
hmm
to my recollection, the guy had roughly the exact same physique, hair, face, everything for
Everything.
30 years.
Yep. Yeah, the length of his hair would fluctuate a bit. He had
That,
longer hair, in the early '90s, but other than that, he is remarkably well preserved. I would agree.
Maybe that's why he had to
And
go away all those times. He was, doing some sort of
uh,
secret voodoo to like extend it.
right.
you
Well,
got
I mean, it
to
counts for a lot that he didn't overdo it, right? He never like wore his body out to the point that I mean,
Hmm.
I know he had some neck problems uh in his WWF second WWF run, I want to say, but I guess he got that taken care of because you never do see his physique deteriorate at all.
Oh,
So that is incredibly impressive.
So they start kind of typically they just lock up. Sting puts Sid right up on the top rope and gets some kicks into his midsection. Tries a little little mini stinger splash up there across his belly. Then he clotheslines Sid over the top rope to a big pop. I think the crowd, at least, if you don't know shit about wrestling, you kind of know Sting. I mean, does
Sure.
that seem
Yeah.
accurate?
yeah, they knew who Sting.
Okay.
I think they
Yeah.
probably knew who both these guys were. I would
I
assume.
would say
Yeah,
so
they
too.
probably would know Sid too.
So I think that gets the crowd in like a lot more on this, because I feel like they actually knew who they were, as to other people in this show that do not get the good responses that these guys get, especially for that big clothesline over the top. So they go on the outside, and Sting knocks Sid over the railing into the fans, which is always a fun spot at Sturgis because there's a sunburned, shirtless redneck with a huge beard. Like, you get,
Yes.
it's amazing people watching just on the railing spots there, and they
You
kind
see
of
some
linger.
heinous tan lines in this
Oh my
crowd.
God, it's rough. And the sun had been baking them through most of this show.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the smells in this crowd with all the leather.
I was gonna say, I was gonna bring that up earlier. I was like, look, now I understand this because I've been to a lot of independent wrestling shows, so I understand something about smell. But what do we think
Yeah.
the smell was like in that crowd?
It's intense, man. It's
BO and cigarettes and gasoline and
yeah,
weed.
that's it. That I think you nailed it.
It's
And
just,
maybe some Aquanet.
oh, sure, for sure.
But Sting works him over the railing on one side and then takes him over to the other side to let that crowd smack on him because they touch him. Sid's just
Fully.
just they're just touching him. It makes me so uncomfortable, like
Yeah.
when they do that.
Me
I
too.
mean,
I'm thinking this is like I'm assuming their security measures were probably not very strong at this event.
probably not.
And so, like, what if one of these dudes actually did think that wrestling somehow thought that wrestling was still real in 1999 and brought like a knife or something, what would stop him from?
Yeah, from shivving him.
Yeah,
It was all killing me watching that.
I
I mean,
think this pretty boy referee Johnny Boone would get in there and stop him.
I've never seen. I don't
Because
remember ever seeing this referee before. Who?
yeah, he was a late WCW addition. I think he was like one of those like power plant trainee washout guys maybe. So it's like, I guess you can be a referee at least. But I remember, Johnny Boone.
Johnny
I'm
Boone.
watching the match as we talk about it, by the way.
Yeah, me too. So they get back in the ring. Sid drives Sting into the turnbuckle and then does a big strike to his chest and then turns that into a body slam. Crushes Sting's face all over the rope and, like kind of holds his face in his, like, I don't know what the fuck you call that, head crusher or some shit, probably a dumb name like that, over the rope. Drops Sting across his knee. Bobby says, Sid is just one big, huge man. And he's right, because he is. The crowd is so fun to watch in this again, and especially this lady in a yellow bikini that gets in a lot of these shots.
She's very tan.
She is extremely dark, and the yellow is just fluorescent
It's
on her.
such a contrast. Yes.
It nearly distracts me from the match.
I watched a
If
little
her
segment earlier where they gave away a Harley Davidson or something.
Yeah.
Michael, did you guys catch the line? Or maybe it was that segment. Maybe it was another one. Bobby had a line that was something along the lines of, "This is such a big event, and this event's growing every year. They just added a new street sign in town."
He hates it there so much.
He hates this show so much.
He is. By the end of the show, he is not doing well.
No, every one of these they always made him go, and he got tanked on every last one of these Sturgis pay-per-views. Bless his heart.
Yeah. Sid keeps throwing Sting around, does a big lariat. Sid now sends Sting over into the railing, so repeating those spots so the crowd can get their hands on Sting a little bit. I like that. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a cheeky move on the part of a wrestler who I didn't think really put much thought into a match, but maybe I'm giving him more credit than
and they're less likely to shiv Sting than they are to shiv Sid.
Right.
Well, there is that.
Let's see. Sting comes back. Sid grabs a face lock in the middle of the ring, and then Sting comes back with some elbows to the stomach, and then he does a hilarious headbutt to Sid's balls where he falls.
One of the great
falling
spots.
headbutt.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite Sting spots ever since I was a little kid.
Really?
Mark out for it every time. Even today, I mark out for it.
That's pretty great. Sid tries to go up top, gets caught, and Sting body slams him off the top. And then Trip Sting as he goes to bounce off the ropes. That was another great spot.
Sting ate shit on
He
that too.
right, he just
'Cause
crashed
I
into
think
the
he
ring.
just tripped because Sid was like not cooperating for
No,
whatever Sting was about
Sid
to
was in
say.
the complete wrong position for what they were trying to do. And then Bobby Heenan goes, that was just desperation. And Mike Tenay goes, well, I think Sid saw Sting coming and picked him up with his long leg. And then Bobby's like, Mike, you catch everything, don't you?
You piece of shit, Mike Tenay. All right. Sting blocks a punch and then body slams Sid again. Tries for the stinger splash, but then he eats knees in a pretty great spot. Sid goes for the
Which is
cover.
probably what was supposed to happen in the first place.
Probably
When
so.
it tripped him somewhat inadvertently.
Sid drops Sting face first up onto the turnbuckle. Lots of hair pulling detail by Sid throughout the match. Because Sting has that nice hair in this, so
Yeah.
it's a great target, and he has those fucking hands, and he just grabs his head and pulls him by his hair.
Sting's hair was in full Scott Stapp mode at this time.
For sure.
Wow.
That's a great comp, actually.
Yeah.
Sting fights back, but then eats a big boot coming off the ropes. Sid gets back up on top, but then no sells the superplex and Sting hits
Thank
on him.
you. I thought I was losing my mind. I was like, what is that? What is he doing?
Superplex, and I go, he just stands up.
It's up leisurely.
Oh, it's great. And then he just goes to the corner to stand for the next spot, which is a tired ass looking stinger splash into that corner. So they're both kind of cooked a little bit. He gets two of those, goes for the third, but then gets grabbed up by the neck. Big choke slam for the win. I like this match. It's cheeky to me. I just kept thinking like it has this weird. I don't know. I don't know that I could explain what I mean by that, but I was surprised by Sid in this match. I thought he was going to be way lazier. Like he did all right. Like except for that one huge no sell, I thought he bumped around for Sting pretty good, and I thought Sting looked great. Like I thought they had great chemistry, and I really enjoyed it. And they didn't waste time with it. There wasn't a lot of wasted spots or shit. Like I just thought it was a really fun match, and that superplex really took me out, though.
It didn't overstay its welcome, for sure.
No, absolutely not.
No.
But between them and the people watching, I don't know, it's fun.
So I don't know if Sting was dealing with an injury and didn't want to take the power bomb, or if he just didn't feel like taking it that night, or if Sid didn't feel like giving it that night. But I don't recall Sid using the choke slam as an actual finishing move very often. Typically, he would choke slam somebody and then power bomb him. And so I was expecting when he hit the choke slam, I thought Sting was going to kick out and then he was going to power bomb him. And so it kind of caught me off guard when the match because I was like, well, that's a strange time. I just don't. Maybe it happened more than I remember, but I don't remember him, especially beating like top guys with the choke slam, because the power bomb was kind of his big deal. So I thought that was in a way it's kind of like, and this is partly the Sting mark in me speaking, that I felt like it kind of made Sting look a little weak to lose on a choke slam after all that stuff, especially given with the no selling of the superplex, which was bizarre. But I think that may have been a thing where they were pressed for time and they're trying to get to the finish or whatever. So Sid, but instead of getting up and kind of like staggering around and getting to the corner, Sid just leisurely gets to his
feet. Yeah, crazy.
So I mean, pretty kind of a by the numbers Sting and Sid match. They've wrestled each other before in the past, but what I think was good about this one is that they kept it short. Some of their matches from like 1990 and 93 probably went a little too long, and I think this one was exactly the right length for what it was. Sid bumped around a little bit. Sting was, I've long said 99 was an underrated year for Sting because I thought he was in great shape. His look was awesome, and he had some good matches that year that kind of flew under the radar because WCW was such a,
shit show.
Yeah, it was a total shit show in '99. So a lot of Sting's good work went under the radar. But no, it's kind of like what I would describe as a by the numbers match, but also a good one, like a solid match. Like nothing they did looked terrible other than the superplex, and even the trip, Sting took a nice little tumble out of that,
Yeah,
so it wasn't too bad.
It added to the match as opposed
Yeah,
to making it look like a botch.
agreed.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Sid, I know people have differing opinions of it. I always liked Sid's punches, his weird, goofy wind-up punches, and me, they just kind of worked for wrestling. I don't know why, but so I enjoyed it. I thought it was an enjoyable time, and now this was not an enjoyable time for WCW in general. I would say that it was probably about the most, like, the product would get arguably worse. However, I don't think it ever got any more boring than it was during this time. Like if you're watching Nitro at this time,
Yeah. Well,
god awfully boring.
I
And
think Eric Bischoff had just gotten fired before this
yeah,
show, didn't he?
yeah,
So
Bill
it was
was
really rudderless.
yeah. So you had a lot of like things like the Hulk Hogan return that kind of went over like a fart in church, where he was red and yellow.
Oh man.
Nobody wanted to see in WCW. Nobody wanted to
I
see.
hated that so much.
So,
So hated that.
So dumb.
Hogan face
it was
turn.
like and he's doing the same early '90s goofy stuff that he was doing
Mhm.
before he turned. And then you had Nash going back and forth between heel and babyface, and Sid, and Sid's doing his Sid thing, but I don't remember where Goldberg was during this time, but it was
He's on the show. He's
was
feuding with Rick Steiner.
oh god. Well, there you have it. So that was all going on, and it was not good. But Sid was actually one of the standouts on the show at that time as it went. Sid was, he was always good for an entertaining promo, and him beating Sting like this in decisive fashion,
Yeah.
big deal, because this was not a tainted win by any means. This was a clear
Clean.
and decisive win that set Goldberg up, or not Goldberg, set Sid up on this winning streak angle that was leading to Goldberg.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. This is going to lead to Sid deciding he's going to actually replicate and actually top Goldberg's streak, right? That win streak, and that would lead to some rather fraudulent decisions in terms of racking up his wins on the path to that collision with Goldberg, but by design, right? It was supposed to be, where does this guy get off thinking he's the next Goldberg, and he's gonna do this in record time, have a record number of wins, and in half the time that it took Goldberg to do it, nobody's buying it. So we will continue to follow that thread, as a matter of fact. But Greg, I think that I would agree with you on that finish. I've always sort of felt it was a little bit weird that he gets the win, the clean win with the choke slam. Although I do like the transition into it where he catches Sting in
By the
the Stinger
face, yeah.
splash. It's a really great. I mean, WCW is not often known for its excellent camera work, but I love how you see Sting coming down for the splash, and
that was awesome.
Yeah, Sid just throttles him, right? And doesn't miss a beat, hits the choke slam. So pretty awesome sequence there. All I can figure is why not the power bomb. I mean, you do have a Kevin Nash match and a Kevin Nash in the main event. Like, he's definitely gonna use a power bomb in that match. Maybe just an agenting decision where they were like, hey, we don't want to have two power bomb spots in back-to-back matches,
What's wrong with that?
and it's just one of those, because it's Nash's move, right? And Hogan's probably gonna like kick out of it, so why does Sid get the
What
win?
divas?
Now
my move. You can't
it's
do
wrestling.
my move.
It's wrestling, Jenny. Like,
nowadays they would do it in every match on the card.
Right?
Yeah. Canadian Destroyers.
Power bomb's a basic move, in my opinion.
Well, back
I
then,
would kind of agree, but
now
it was sort of more protected back then.
Right.
Except we say that, and then I remember Eddie Guerrero just killing dudes with power bombs.
Except the cruiserweights doing them constantly. Yeah. So, but I mean, I could be totally off base there, but that would sort of be my guess.
of sense because it didn't look like either guy was injured. Like it didn't look like either guy was
No,
No,
I
I
don't
didn't
think
think so
there's
either.
any.
physical
I don't
trouble.
think there's any injury situations. I think they're just trying to mix up some of their matches, their finishes, and big spots and whatnot. I just think that this, while it is a paint by numbers sort of match, as you said, Greg, that is still better than often what you get on these Sturgis shows.
Oh, 100%.
As much as I do have some nostalgia, some fondness for this one, again, seeing it for free goes a long way. And this is a match I would say that, unlike a lot of these outings at Sturgis with other guys who are arguably more talented, this match and these competitors are very cognizant of their environment. This is a match that plays to the crowd big time. As you pointed out, Jenny, there's lots of spots where they're, brawling in and around the ringside. They go over the barricade to let the fans get involved a little bit, let them get their licks in, which is, again, something that's crazy to me. It's something you really don't see today, but they're making use of this environment and this setting in a way that kind of benefits the match. I think even a spot like, Sting doing the slow fall and headbutting Sid in the nuts. It's such a like slapstick goofy thing, but it's crowd pleasing at the same time. So I think everything they do here is just very conscious of, all right, who really cares, work rate, star ratings, what Dave Meltzer is going to say. We're in Sturgis, let's just keep them happy and get the hell out of here. And they do. It's like a 10-minute match, and that is the secret to every Sid match, is if you keep it 10 minutes and under, preferably under 7 minutes, you'll probably get something decent out of him.
Yeah,
So
would you agree?
That's the case here.
Would you agree, Tim, that this was better than their earlier WCW matches?
I was going to say, I definitely think it's better than that 1990 Halloween Havoc. I don't think I've seen the 93 Havoc match in a while, but I don't remember that being any great shakes either.
Yeah, that's the one, admittedly, that I have seen the least. I haven't seen that in a long, long time.
I
But
don't think there's much to it.
I remember the 90 match being not as good as this one.
No, and it has that infamous ending, of course.
Sid wasn't really ready for that spot at the time, and he's ready here. They gave it a good go.
Yeah, yep. So I can't say anything bad about this one really, and it's
All right,
it's a good showcase for 1999 returning Sid Vicious. And if we have a theme of this show, it's going to be kind of that as we progress.
Yeah. So our next that actually segues nicely into our next contest, which is my selection for this show, and it comes to us from Halloween Havoc just a couple months later after Road Wild. And
some would say the worst WCW pay-per-view of all time.
Some would say I would certainly say the most bizarre WCW pay-per-view perhaps of all time. But before we get to that, I do think that we should probably, since this is a Sid Vicious episode, we may never do another one. We should probably give people some background on Sid's WCW tenure, because this wasn't his first go round, as we've referred to with World Championship Wrestling.
No.
Sid comes along in 1989 onto the WCW scene and makes a stir pretty quickly as part of the Skyscrapers tag team with Dangerous Danny Spivey, managed by the Godfather Teddy Long. And I think that was their manager the whole time. But regardless, they were a force to be reckoned with. They came in and would squash jobbers, and pretty quickly on, the fans of WCW at these shows picked out Sid as their guy. Like they didn't really care about Spivey, but whenever Sid would be on the apron, people would be chanting for Sid. And when Sid would come in, they'd go nuts for the power bomb, for the helicopter slam, for the, all these cool things he was doing. He had this physical charisma about him. And before long, WCW management took notice of Sid and moved him into a key role in the Four Horsemen in 1990. So you had Sid, Flair, Anderson, and Wyndham as the Four Horsemen. And he has a nice run there, has a world title match with Sting. And then, of course, he leaves in early 91, goes to the WWF, has a cup of coffee there. And then by 93,
Sid Justice.
as Sid Justice, by 93, I believe Slamboree is when he returns and kicks off his main event WCW run, where he's on his own. Well, he's aligned with Colonel Robert Parker, and he tags up with Vader to feud with Sting and Davey Boy Smith. He hires a mischievous small
Cheatham.
named Cheatham to sink their boat for some reason.
Oh yes, I remember.
And he
Explode their boat.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Sid has a strong run that summer, and it culminates at Halloween Havoc in a match to determine the franchise of WCW against Sting. And then in the aftermath of that, an unexpected thing happens, and Sid turns babyface and turns on Colonel Parker. This was to set up Sid to become the WCW World Champion against Big Van Vader at Starrcade, but due to an incident with Arn Anderson overseas, Sid finds himself fired from WCW.
It was a minor stabbing. It was just a minor stabbing.
Oh, is that all?
Scissors and
scissors got involved.
Nasty business. So Sid gets himself fired, and he's not to be seen again until 1999, which brings us to this run. Now, separately from this, another bit of backstory. WCW at Halloween Havoc 99, even though it's only 2 months later, is a far different landscape than we had at Road Wild 99.
Oh my, yeah.
In the interim, and I believe Bischoff maybe had not been removed yet by Road Wild, because I think it was shortly thereafter.
It may have been right after.
Yeah, because the reason I say that is Raven was on Road Wild.
Right. Yeah, I thought of the same thing as
Bischoff
soon as I said it. Yeah.
Where he said, if you would like to get out of this company, then you stand up right now and leave. And Raven got up and left.
And Bischoff was like, well, call my bluff, I guess.
So Eric Bischoff gets himself removed from power at this point. And that leaves WCW with no leadership for about a month. And then it comes out that they're bringing in the alleged architect of the Attitude Era, the head writer of Monday Night Raw, Vince Russo, and his co-writer, Ed Ferrara. So this has been announced, and they come in, I believe, early October, maybe the last week of September or first week of October, and begin crafting their vision of WCW. And this is their first big show, Halloween Havoc. So we've had two shifts in power since Road Wild. The creative direction is wildly different. Sting is a heel right now, which did not work
in
very
theory.
well. And Hogan is a babyface, and that's not really relevant to what we're talking about for this episode, but perhaps another day. But Sid and Goldberg have kind of been the one constant since August. They're continuing this angle of the Millennium Man and his undefeated streak, trying to top Goldberg's undefeated streak. And that brings us to this match. It is for the United States Championship, Goldberg versus the reigning champion, Sid Vicious, the Millennium Man. And before this match even begins, in the backstage area, Goldberg jumps Sid and bloodies him. And
that's a great segment.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Probably the spot of the show, which I otherwise hate.
Yeah, so Sid jumps off the ground and says, "Is that all you got?" And so Sid's and let me tell you, as blade jobs go, this was a good one from Sid.
Yeah.
Sid comes to the ring. He's already been bleeding, but it's dried a little bit at least. He gets to the ring first, even though he's the champion. Goldberg gets his big entrance, the security, Doug Dillinger and whatnot, walking him to the ring. Hall and Nash, for reasons that I can't begin to remember, Goldberg before the match. They
were retired, but still interfered.
They're assholes.
They mildly annoy Goldberg by giving him a few. Arms.
Greg, Kevin Nash again in that match he had at Road Wild, he lost to Hulkamania Revival Tour Hulk Hogan. And that was a career, a title versus career match, you see. So he had to retire. but that lasted, as most wrestling retirements do, about a month. And so he
Hmm.
and Scott Hall are just showing up, drinking beers in the crowd, and mainly interfering in Goldberg matches. For some reason, they have a real grudge against Goldberg.
They don't like him.
Cause fuck you, that's why.
Yeah.
And then Goldberg, after being attacked by Hall and Nash, recovers pretty quick because Sid jumps him outside the ring, and they start brawling, and Goldberg fights back and pretty much takes the advantage really quickly, opens up the cut again, and man, does he open it up again.
Yep.
That Sid is dropping an all-time gusher here. They're brawling all around the ringside, bashing each other into the guardrail. They get in the ring. Goldberg grabs Sid by the hair and just starts pounding on that cut, old school style. I loved it. And
Oh, it was awesome.
I before I go any further, I just want to say I know this is a very maligned show in many ways, and deservedly so. I thought this is the first time I've seen this match since it aired. I thought this was fucking awesome
Yeah, it was great.
while it lasted. It didn't last long, but they get in the ring,
But
and
that's part of it.
Goldberg is tearing into that cut, and Sid's fight. It's kind of booked weird a little bit.
Yeah.
They're kind of book it like Sid is the babyface. Am I wrong? Like it.
Yeah,
No,
because he
they
takes a
definitely
fucking
built
mauling.
sympathy. Yeah,
Yeah.
He's fighting
they
from.
built a lot of sympathy for him.
He's coming back. He's coming from behind. They're doing all these, teasing the ref stoppage, and Goldberg's really being vicious with going after that cut, and Sid keeps fighting back from underneath and pounding away, and they're hitting each other with big bombs too. Like they're not just like going through the motions here. Goldberg obviously hits hard, and Sid's giving it back to him in this one. Hits him with a beautiful big boot in the ring.
Oh yes.
Versus an Irish whip, throws him in, nails him with the big boot. This is a motivated Sid. I think that's clear. He's motivated in this match. He's working hard, and he's trying to take advantage on Goldberg, and Goldberg is he's selling for Sid, but he's also he's coming back strong, and Sid is ultimately, I would say, on the defensive for the majority of this match, and but he's not giving up. He's continuing to fight back. He doesn't want to give Goldberg the satisfaction of staying down. So Bill hits him with all this stuff. He won't stay down. At one point, a really cool spot, I thought, Sid has him in the camel clutch, and then Goldberg slides out the back and picks him up in the electric chair drop, which got a nice pop from the crowd. The strengths, because Sid's pushing over 300 pounds at this point, and that's a pretty impressive spot for old Goldberg. And they go back and forth. I don't know. I didn't have my timer going on the match here, but it seemed pretty short and to the point. I honestly thought they could have used maybe 3 to 5 more minutes, but then again, that might have ruined it. But eventually, Goldberg's beating on him severely, and the referee has seen enough, and he says there's too much blood loss. Sid can barely stand up. He stops the match. I thought Sid did a great job of selling here, actually, because
Yeah.
he's pissed at the stoppage, but then he's so woozy that he falls back in the corner, which, as if anybody has watched the UFC, that happens a lot when there's stoppages due to blood loss or whatever, due to whatever. The guy will protest it, but while he's protesting, he's staggering around, meaning obviously he was out. So the ref stops the match, awards the match and the belt to Goldberg, but Sid wants to keep fighting. That's what I'm saying. He's really presented as a babyface here because he wants to keep fighting, and his buddy Rick Steiner comes out to talk some sense into him to keep him from going back at Goldberg, who was just going to beat on him some more. And they tease a couple of times. The referee and Steiner are helping Sid up the aisle, or rather a medical guy is helping Sid up the aisle, and he stops a few times and teases going back for the fight, and Goldberg's telling him, come on, and Sid's backing away. And then I didn't even mention my favorite part in the match. At one point, Sid has Goldberg by the head, and he looks out to the crowd, and he spits, and it's this perfect Triple H like water blast, but it's blood up in the air. I mean, it was an incredible visual. Look, this is not Tully and Magnum or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but for Goldberg and Sid, this is 1,000 times better than you would think it would be. I thought it was excellent from both guys, and Sid, in particular, I thought was excellent here. I don't know what their rematch the next month looks like, but I can't remember. But it probably isn't as good as this. So, understanding that there's the finish is what it is. I really, really liked this match. I was glad to watch it again. I honestly had forgotten how good that how much blood Sid got in this one.
Yeah.
So and again, for those that didn't watch WCW back then, blood was not common in WCW in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Very uncommon, and so it was a big deal at the time. And so anyway, I thought it was a hell of a contest between two big meaty men slapping meat.
I would say for a long time I hated this match. I still kind of hate this match,
Oh no.
but I do understand this match in ways that I probably didn't when I was younger, because I guess I wanted it to be more of what you just said, Greg, which is big beefy men slapping meat, right? I wanted it to be that. To give an example of a match that didn't even exist yet, this in my mind should have been like a Batista Undertaker match.
Yeah.
They're just throwing big move after big move. But that's sort of me, I think, being a fucking mark, right? Like, I want to see a spear, man. I want to see
Yeah.
fucking Goldberg jackhammer this big bastard. I want to
You
see like,
fucking mark.
yeah, I want to see like a no sell of a power bomb, like just cool shit like that. But at the same time, I think I realize, that's sort of the 15-year-old in me still talking, like having purchased this pay-per-view and been, I mean, disappointed is not the goddamn word for it. And this match being a big part of that, it's just, I think I realize you're not going to get that kind of match from a Goldberg and a Sid Vicious. It's just, these are not the two to. These guys are not Undertaker and Batista. Sorry, right? Like
Right.
If anything, they each need someone to carry them to a good match, and it's like, short of that, you're gonna have to book some kind of story to hang a match on. Otherwise, it's probably gonna fall apart very quickly. And so I think I understand the decision that was made. Just make it a bloodbath, right? So that no one has to really do much in terms of like actual professional wrestling, but they can sure go out there and have a fight and make that very believable. And so that's what it is. So I would have liked to have seen, more of a Hoss style match, because that's what sort of this was set up as, I think, in the angle leading up to the match. They did the very sports entertainment. They're uh, feuding by proxy through each other's destruction of rental vehicles,
Threw
which
me
is
so bad.
which
I
is
was watching
real dumb,
video back.
but funny. And then they had like a no contact stipulation, right? Where if they laid a hand on each other, then the match
Oh
was
yeah.
off. They did
Yeah.
which is never like a good way to build a match, I feel like. But that's funny because I want to say the week, like the go home week, heading into this pay per view, Goldberg just spears the ever loving fuck out of Sid, on like a Nitro or Thunder, right? And you could tell that was just Russo and Ferrara coming in and going, yeah, we're gonna wave off all that other bullshit booking. Obviously, the match is still happening. We got to put some heat behind this thing,
Yeah.
and they did. And there was another segment where I think it was like the contract signing or something, where he's like in a suit, power bombs Goldberg on that segment, and you're just
In a suit
you're
with
like, well, it's in a way oversized suit for this gigantic man. So that's great. So I was like kind of gearing up to see more of that in this match, and that's not what it gave me. But I get why they did what they did. I will say and maintain that I hate and continue to hate the sympathy booking of Sid Vicious here. Like, he had been such a bastard and such a villain
Right.
since his return. I understand you want to turn him face, but I hated the way that they did it in this match. It's almost like trying to do a retread of Austin and the Sharpshooter, right? And you're not gonna, you can't do that with Sid Vicious. I'm sorry.
Before I
Like,
saw
just,
this, I think I combined their two matches in my mind because I thought they had an I Quit match.
I think that's their rematch at the next month, Mayhem or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it does end in a submission, and it's not very good.
I can only imagine
Shocker, right?
Sid doing Fujiwara arm bars and stuff.
I think that's like what happens. Yeah. So, I mean, it's Goldberg doing it, but still, it's
Yeah.
not good. But yeah, that's where I am on this.
So you hate it still, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I get it, but it's not like a match I go out of my way to watch. I mean, I
Mm,
hate this entire show, but also find it
mm,
strangely watchable.
mm,
Like, it does have entertainment value. Don't get me wrong. This is not boring by any means.
Well, that's
mm,
what I was gonna say. The
So,
thing that I would give Halloween Havoc from my now I didn't watch the whole show tonight, but I did skim through a little bit of it, and that's why I think I texted you guys earlier and said this is like a fever dream show.
it really
yeah.
is.
Almost
Yeah.
none of it makes sense, uh, especially out of context. Taking this in a
Oh
vacuum,
my God.
none of it makes
Yeah.
sense. I watched the Sting and Hogan segment, and having just watched the Bash at the Beach thing like maybe a month ago from Bash at the Beach 2000. It's the
Hmm.
exact same angle,
Oh, it is. It absolutely is.
and
Yeah.
it went nowhere.
No,
And I'm like,
just a
what are they?
Russo special.
Are they trying to kill whatever city this was in? Like,
Vegas. Yeah.
well, you can't kill Vegas, I guess, but
Well, it sure was a mauling, and I guess like when in doubt, just Blade,
Yeah.
and because Goldberg and Sid are about the same level as like what I would consider like intelligence, if that makes sense.
Ring savvy, maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. That's a good.
now I would remind you that Sid he's half the he may be half the man that Kevin Nash is, but he also has half the brains that he does.
Half the brain that you do.
I don't. That is just my impression of them, like just in my mind. So in this match, I wasn't really expecting as much like psychology or whatever. So to me, if you're bleeding, I'm having fun. So to me, I like seeing it. Working that cut over and over again. It just it does make him seem a little too vulnerable, though, to Tim's point, and
Mm.
it didn't occur to me when I was watching it, but thinking back on it, yeah, that absolutely um, is what they do. And I guess I don't feel one way or another about that in particular, but it definitely happened. But um, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was short, like like you have with the Sid match. So
Yeah, to the point.
Again, they keep it short. Yeah, very smart. I mean, look, it's worth at least a star, 2 stars, just for the insanity of that backstage segment where
mm,
Sid gets busted open and they're working on the cut and he's just screaming, "Let it bleed! Let it bleed!"
amazing.
Which, yeah, I'm all for, like, make him look like a badass, sure, but let's not go full on babyface where Rick Steiner's coming out. Oh shucks, dude, maybe hang it up. Like, just come on,
Also,
bullshit.
I'll tell you what I was expecting to happen. I was expecting Rick Steiner to try to, after he helped Sid out of the ring, try to go after Goldberg and get speared and jackhammered. So we would still
Sure.
spear and jackhammer, but I guess that was to come later in the show.
Well, we still will. We will still get that, but it's so weird. Yeah. So Goldberg has won the U.S. title here, which is kind of a strange look for a guy who had this massive undefeated streak and became, world heavyweight champion, only to lose it and get screwed. And now it's like, he's a mid card title holder. Interesting. But that will not be long for this world either. Greg, does the Russo experiment that really turned things around for WCW, right? I mean,
Yes, as I understand
new,
it, they were doing record ratings at this time. At this old,
uh-huh.
they 8 to 9 million viewers a week, and it was extremely successful. And then for no reason, WCW removed Vince Russo from Power unfairly, and
Mm,
Bullshit politics in the back, bro. That's what it
actually
sounds like to me.
immediate
always.
immediately the ratings were cut into like 1/16 of that 9 million number, and
Yep.
so they were just ruined by Russo not being around. But in fact, Russo did get himself removed from Power because he did not do what he had promised to do, and also the company was, everything was kind of going off the rails a little bit, so they are pull the plug on the Russo experiment, and then they bring in some sort of booking committee, which is always a great idea. And
Yeah, yeah.
they they have a new variation. Hey, in case of emergency, break NWO glass. So they re
Mm-hmm.
NWO, but this time it's the NWO Silver and Black, which was led by, help me if I get this wrong, Bret Hart was the leader.
I
Jeff Jarrett
guess. Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett was the second in command, I guess. Hall
Uh,
and Nash, Scott Steiner, maybe.
yep. Uh-huh. Yep.
The Harris twins for some reason.
Yeah, the Harris
Right.
brothers. Uh-huh.
Ron and
The
Don,
Nazi brothers.
and and so they're around. They're run, and boy, Tim, they come in and they recreate the momentum of 1996, and they run roughshod over WCW
They do.
for
Yeah.
about 2 weeks. And in the course
Uh-huh.
of 2 weeks, Bret Hart, who had suffered a concussion at Starrcade against Goldberg, as we come to find out, would later
Got a
suffer.
fucking hole kicked in his head, knocked into the front fucking row by that big dumb gorilla, Big Goldberg.
The big Bill Goldberg.
Bill Goldberg.
Bill Goldberg kicked me
Kicked
in the
my
head.
fucking head off.
And so the one thing that we always could say for all the criticism you could have of WCW, they had a crack medical staff, right? So
Like the fucking crack in
Like
my skull from that big dumb gorilla, Big Goldberg.
Bill Goldberg, that so the doctors continued to allow Bret Hart to wrestle with a concussion, and subsequently suffered about three
Without a
more.
brain, without a head. I mean, for weeks.
He's actually, like, if you've seen Futurama, his head was actually
yes,
his head was
yes.
in a jar for about 3
Yes.
after
Bret
this,
Hart jar.
and so
After a
Bret
few weeks
Hart,
of my head entering rooms before the rest of my body did, I just couldn't take it anymore.
they book him in a hardcore match with Terry Funk where he gets beat in the head with a chair multiple times. So eventually,
Uh,
Bret Hart's brain is turned to mush and he can no longer wrestle. So he's gone.
I think he had a
Around the
match with
same time,
Benoit at some point in there, who is notably a light worker as well. So
yeah. So it's around the same time Jeff Jarrett suffers some sort of an injury or some sort of calamity. I think,
concussion. He got his head kicked off too.
yeah, he gets a concussion, so he's out.
No,
Uh,
yeah, he does have a concussion. I don't remember how it happened, but he
Scott,
does.
Scott Hall, I think, had another. Scott Hall was having his own issues at the time. He's out. So the NWO pretty much is killed out of the gates. This new version of it.
Is this when Scott Steiner got suspended for calling Ric
Yeah,
Flair an old bastard?
you're
Because
right.
he was,
Steiner does a
yeah,
promo about Ric Flair and his crooked yellow teeth, and
that's right.
he gets suspended, and
So he got suspended, so he's out.
yeah, so this angle did not go over well, which brings us to February of '99, and at this point, I have no idea who was booking WCW. Maybe Kevin Sullivan again,
It was some combination of Kevin Sullivan and friends, I think.
and so we've got the World Heavyweight Championship is around the waist of Sid.
Okay, can I kind of walk you through
Yes, please.
the WCW World Heavyweight Championship hot potato reigns of the year 2000? Because I feel like you queued me up pretty well here, Greg. So going into the year, Bret Hart is your champion, right? As you mentioned, although he is concussed, has
At the hands of Bill
CTE
Goldberg.
at the hands of that fucking 800-pound idiot Bill Goldberg. So even though he is without a brain and without a head, he does have the WCW championship, at least for a little bit. at least for a little bit. He does end up vacating that title when he realizes, I don't think I can wrestle anymore. So we've gone from Bret Hart to vacant to now we're going to declare a new champion at Sold Out, which is Russo's last show or the show where he was given his pink slip, I guess. And that main event is going to be Sid Vicious versus Chris Benoit to declare the new champion. Benoit wins, but guess what? Benoit's none too pleased. He's going to walk out on the company the next night, which is going to result in, the title being declared vacant yet again. So what we're going to do is have Sid Vicious qualify to challenge for the right to win the championship again on Nitro. But first, he has to go through the Nazi twins. I mean, the Harris twins in a handicap match. He defeats them and then battles Kevin Nash in that main event. Actually wins it and wins the title. This is on January 24th for those keeping score at home on Nitro. Now, although Sid won the belt, Kevin Nash, in his capacity as commissioner, don't ask me how he became commissioner, but at some point he did. Kevin Nash stripped Sid Vicious of the title 2 days later on that week's Thunder. And the reason he did so is because Sid, in his qualifying match, he pinned the illegal Nazi brother. So that meant he never should have faced Nash in the first place. Therefore,
are we sure that
the
Russo
title
was
is
at
again.
this time?
Russo is no longer booking at this time. This is
Yeah.
the booking committee or whatever. So this is the third time in less than 30 days that the championship has been held up now. But don't worry, Nash is going to award himself the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. This is all in that same Thunder, by the way. So
In true Dusty fashion.
yeah, so Sid is now going to challenge Nash and the correct Nazi brother, if there is such a thing as a correct Nazi brother, in a triple threat steel cage match in that Thunder main event. Wow, that's a big main event for Thunder. This is all going down on January 26th. Sid wins yet again. So now he is the legitimate WCW World title holder. We have, if you're keeping score, 7 title changes 1 month into the year, with good old Abeyance being the most decorated title holder now in the year 2000.
One of the great
As
legends
that joke
of our
goes.
business.
Abeyance, yeah. Oh, whew. Throughout all of this, and this is setting us up for the match that I picked, which is the main event of Super Brawl 2000, which comes to you from the Cow Palace. It's on February 20th, 2000, San Francisco. It's really telling to me how little faith like this clown car creative team that's running WCW had in Jeff Jarrett for him not to have ended up with the title even once throughout all of that he'll get it later, don't get me wrong, right? But throughout all of this bullshit at the beginning of the year, 7 title changes, not one of them is Jeff Jarrett in the equation, right?
Well, because he sucks, you see.
How dare you? My
Fuck
strong
him.
words. Strong
I
words
said
from
what I
Jim
said.
McMahon.
Those are fighting words if I ever heard them, Jenny.
Fuck you, Jeff Jarrett.
I think we got a Chris Crisley run in there.
I was gonna say, I was thinking that
Todd
earlier.
Crisley, excuse me.
I was watching a wrestling program earlier, and Jeff Jarrett was on there, and he was talking, and I was like to somebody at ringside, and I was like, "Have we ever seen Todd Crisley and Jeff Jarrett in the same?"
Jeff Jarrett. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
So we've got
Who
this
sucks worse?
who sucks worse? Well, I don't know. One's in prison. One, if they are in fact 2 different people in theory, right?
Hmm.
One is now in prison. One is in AW.
Which is the same as prison, probably.
Oh my goodness. Listen to this. Listen
Look,
to this. Strong words.
I'm a hater.
So
Fine, don't worry about it.
don't worry about it. This is such a bizarre little interim period. These, like, really, it's just February and March of 2000, right? Because January is still basically Russo, and then Russo comes back like in April. So you've got this like in between period, and it's really just the story of Sid heroically overcoming all the obstacles thrown at him. He's winning the championship time and again, even when it's being stripped by villainous commissioners like Kevin Nash. And he like has a reasonably healthy title reign when all is said and done. It's really kind of funny that this is the story coming out of early 2000s WCW, and it's all about Sid Vicious.
Hmm.
So we get to Super Brawl 2000, you guys. And Greg, you said what you said about Halloween Havoc. 1999, Super Brawl 2000 might be the worst WCW pay-per-view. Um,
They kept finding new ways to bottom themselves.
with all due respect to Matt Souza, our dear friend,
Maddie
who
loves that
hates
show.
this show, who hates this show and wants to watch it on every possible opportunity. It's such a try hard show to me. That's what stands out to me about Super Brawl 2000. It's using so many smoke and mirrors to distract you from all of the major L's that this promotion had racked up, just in terms of the hits they had taken from a star power standpoint and an enthusiasm standpoint as well. We talked about Bret Hart being on the shelf. He's about to declare retirement, in fact. Goldberg, now, Greg, you said in case of emergency, break glass, employ NWO. Well, Goldberg perhaps took that a bit literally, breaking the glass in the limo that the NWO is escaping in. He shoot punches through multiple windows in that
Good laugh, by the
limousine,
way.
shreds his arm completely. He's now injured and is going to be away for a few months. Kevin Nash, I don't know what's going on with him, but he's not wrestling. He's an on-screen authority figure. He's that commissioner. Um, Sting is on a little bit of a sabbatical here. DDP, I think, is doing reshoots for the great film of our lives, Ready to Rumble. We mentioned Scott Steiner suspended for calling out Ric Flair.
Chris Benoit.
Chris Benoit walked out after the last show and took all of the company's most reliable upper mid card talent with him. Scott Hall's days are really numbered, but hey, at least he's in this match. So, not to worry, you guys. We've still got Hulk Hogan. We've still got Ric Flair. We've got Terry Funk. We've got the total package. So, that is just plenty of talent to build an 11 match card around for this Super Brawl 2000 show. It's gimmicks galore. You got hardcore matches. You got Sicilian stretcher matches. You've got matches for ownership of the letter T. Um, you've got
What?
the Kiss Demon, right? Who was contractually obligated to a main event match at some point in his WCW run. So he's booked in a special main event match in the middle of the show against the Wall. So that's pretty special. Oh, and who's Big Al? Don't worry about that. What's a leather jacket on a pole match? It's just it's one of the many great ways that this show is so rewarding.
Hmm.
And hey, look over there, it's James Brown, not announced but making a big appearance here. The actual James Brown. Holy shit! So like I said, total try hard. WCW at its nadir, I guess you could say, if you want to be artsy fartsy about it. But that brings us to this main event, and it's a barn burner because we've got Michael Buffer handling introductions with a little less than 10 minutes of runtime left in this pay-per-view, so I
Mhm.
guess we're gonna race through this.
And Mark Madden, for God's sake, is on commentary, and
Yeah, fuck
For
him.
God's sake,
I
yeah.
don't know where anybody else on this panel other than Jenny apparently stands on this. But boy, oh boy, does Mark Madden not age well to me. I
He sucks.
and his
He's
damn voice.
bad. He's real bad.
I was
Yeah,
like, who does this motherfucker think he is? Like,
yeah.
I'm not here for it.
He's got a terrible voice for announcing. His
Yes.
his lines are not funny. He
No.
he's stepping on the toes of the other announcers.
It's
Just not
awful.
at all.
The
I
internet
feel like
loved him
they
at the time. Yeah.
what?
I
I feel
remember.
Yeah.
like
Oh
they
yeah.
try to put him in his place sometimes during the broadcast, but he still sucks.
I can tell you, as somebody that was a 16-year-old on the internet at the time, I probably liked him too, just because I thought anybody that made insider references was really, really funny. And
Of
so
course, they had to be.
does that a lot on commentary, but like then you find out later on, you watch the show and you're like, God, that wasn't funny at all. He's really
No.
not good at this, is he? No, I miss Bobby big time on this show.
Oh yeah, Bobby's the best.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing too. People are really down on Bobby, so it's like, oh, get some fresh blood in there. Yeah, give it to Madden. So that's, in hindsight, one of the worst takes about late period WCW. So and he's doing the kind of heel announcer gimmick, but he's trying to be cool at the same time, and it doesn't gel. And so what we've got are basically the remnants of NWO Black and Silver
Mhm.
challenging Sid Vicious again, our fighting face champion of the first quarter of 2000 at least. Um, so uh, that means aren't these guys supposed to be stablemates, right? Jarrett and Hall. No, apparently that busted up when Hall went into business for himself, challenged Sid for the title, and Jarrett took exception. And then the Harris brothers back to Jarrett. So Hall is a lone wolf here, effectively.
Mhm.
Nash has been taken out. He was attacked with a guitar by Jeff Jarrett. So he's not even here in his capacity as commissioner. So, but you know what? Who is the acting commissioner for the night? Um, Jeff Jarrett. I guess that's his reward
What?
for abusing the regular commissioner. So it's just all over the place. A real mess here.
Yeah, it is.
Um, Buffer does his intros for Hall and Jarrett, and the bell actually rings before Sid has even been introduced and makes his entrance. So these two are going at it, just laying into each other because I mean they've got it. They don't have much time left. We got to race through this thing
Mhm.
now. So they're laying into each other with punches. Hall gets that fallaway slam on Jarrett very early into the match. Sid finally makes his way to the ring, cleans house on both competitors, and now we're already regrouping here, like a minute or two into the match. The Harrises now get involved because they're at ringside. They bring Sid down, crotch him on the ring post, and Jarrett stomps away on Sid to keep him out of the equation. Hall then whips Jarrett into the ropes, but Jarrett counters with a, as I wrote down in my notes, winging neckbreaker. Uh, great move there. Quick exchange of sleepers, but they really can't get any mileage out of that because we don't have time to do rest holds or set up any long submission spots in this match between Jarrett and Hall here. So that leads to, oh boy, Jarrett wiping out referee number one. We've got to do some more math, you guys. So I realize I was asking a lot of you with all those title changes
Yeah.
earlier at the
Yes.
start of the year. So we've also got to keep track of referees going down in this match.
Now
This
I have
is
a quick
Billy's.
about this
Uh,
first. I believe the first referee was Nick Patrick. Yes.
nope, it was Billy Silverman.
He was the
Sorry.
second, I
Oh,
think.
the second.
Yep.
I was going to say
Yep.
Nick Patrick. I thought the mustache would break his fall.
Uh,
Well, he sure
I
ain't
love you
shit
for that.
because yeah, he's gonna come in later. Billy Silverman gets it on a clothesline. So Jarrett, with no referee there, mule kicks Scott Hall. Sid is now reasserting himself into the match, gets a double lariat, and then double choke slams, which looks kind of cool. That's when Nick Patrick now slides in to officiate very briefly in this match. Gets a 2 count on Jarrett after the choke slam, but Sid, to his credit, then smartly goes for the pin on Hall, but he also kicks out. Jarrett then wipes out Sid with the championship belt. So we get a shoving exchange now between Jarrett and Nick Patrick. So here's where Nick Patrick is going to eat shit. Takes the stroke. And
Badly. Very badly.
Yeah, it's an awkward move anyway, and if
Yeah,
it's a
sucks.
non-wrestler on the receiving end, it's probably not gonna
And again,
But
look too
Jarrett
good.
it killed my suspension of disbelief because of the mustache aspect.
Yes.
The mustache, he should have just bounced right back up, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, sadly that does not happen. Now the Nazi twins on the outside, they hold up a chair. I guess they're gonna like the idea is Jarrett is gonna whip Sid into that, but Sid reverses, so Jarrett eats the chair. Now we've got referee number 3 entering the match. That is Charles Robinson. Absurdly close 2 count on Scott Hall by Jeff Jarrett. Love that kick out. So Jarrett now just decides, I guess on a whim, to hit Charles Robinson with the stroke. So they didn't even like set it up or anything. Just out of nowhere, he's like, fuck this guy. Mickey J is now already in the ring. So he's referee number 4. Jarrett takes him out immediately. Like he doesn't even get to do anything. He's just like all of a sudden in the ring. You don't even register that he's there before Jarrett takes him out. So all of this is by design because referee, keep up guys, number 5 is Slick Johnson. Now Slick Johnson is in the bag for the NWO Black and Silver, specifically Jarrett. So he's out there now, but just in time for Jeff Jarrett to take the outsider's edge from Scott Hall. So Slick Johnson, he don't want to count that pinfall, right? For Hall, he fakes a shoulder injury. So it's like, oh God, are we going to get another referee going out here? Sid now makes his way back into the ring. He lays out Hall and Jarrett with punches, lariats, big boot, running through kind of all of his standard offense. Jarrett, though, smashes the guitar over Scott Hall's head, and we get a pretty haggard-looking Roddy Piper at this point, sauntering out to the ring. He makes it somehow in time to stop Slick Johnson from making the 3 count for Jeff Jarrett.
And he has a
Roddy Piper.
He has a robot arm for some reason.
He
too.
does have a robot arm. Yes, he has a bionic arm, surgically removed and replaced with cybernetics, because this is 2000 Roddy Piper. Piper though takes out Slick Johnson, slugs him, and Jarrett now is getting in Piper's face, but that distraction is enough for Sid to take Jarrett for the ride on a big choke slam. Follows that up with a power bomb on Scott Hall. So both these guys are laid out. It is now academic for Sid. He gets the win, retains again in heroic fashion his WCW championship. Now you would think all of that I ran through, this would be like a 25-minute match, right? All these spots. No, it's about just under 8 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is your main event for Super Brawl.
That's a lot of shit in a small bag.
Sure is.
It's maybe the most shit in the smallest bag I've ever. Honestly, it reminds me of like a 2002 TNA main event.
I can see that.
Just on one of those like weekly pay-per-views.
Yeah, it's Scott Hall and Jeff Jarrett, so it would fit in very well with an early 2002 TNA pay-per-view main event.
Whew. Yeah, exactly. So it's funny, Sid is going to go on to successfully defend that title again against Jeff Jarrett in a singles match at next month's show, Uncensored. So I got to tell you, I'll hand it to Sid for his part. He does bring some stability to that WCW world title scene. Holding down the fort, holding on to the belt, at least until that Russo Bischoff reboot in April, and that's when they vacate all the championships.
Correct,
And
that was
oof.
pretty end of Sid, right? Well, no.
Yes,
Later
Sid went away until he comes back at the end of the year to
break his leg.
to challenge Scott Steiner, which made a lot of sense since he never legitimately lost the belt. But that does not last long because he has that hideous injury, and
But
WCW closes shortly thereafter.
I remember they do the promo when Bischoff and Russo take over Nitro, and Bischoff does the, you forgot your scissors, Sid? Forget your scissors.
He had to say it twice because he didn't think he got people didn't get it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, he must not. They did. I guess they just didn't hear me or didn't register. So he says it again, and it's pretty embarrassing.
So I can't remember. Did Sid just vanish after that?
He did just vanish after that. Yeah, he did hand over the title, and like you said, Bischoff got in his face, and he just disappeared. So
wow.
I don't know. They always say he's playing softball when he's not wrestling. So there you go.
Right.
Well,
that's what I always heard about him.
I thought this triple threat match, I thought when Jarrett and Hall were wrestling, it was decent, and when Sid was in, it was a little clunky. And obviously they were going through what was supposed to be, I'm assuming, supposed to be about a 15-minute match and squeezing it into 8 minutes. And it very strange. I also thought they made a mistake. It was a cool finish. I will say that. I liked the idea of the finish. I think they should have swapped the two people at the end, only because I don't think that crowd wanted Scott Hall to lose.
Right.
That crowd seemed to be into Scott Hall, and I think that they were into Sid choke slamming Jarrett, but they did not like Sid power bombing Scott Hall and pinning him. And I think that finish would have gone over and sounded a lot better. And I know why they didn't, because they wanted to protect Jarrett, but it would have sounded better if they swapped the two, had Scott Hall take the choke slam, and then let Sid hit Jarrett with the big power bomb and get that and then Jarrett can get his heat back the next night or whatever. But I just think that would have been a better way to finish the match. Obviously,
I thought the same thing. Yep.
Not much to write home about, but I thought the biggest surprise to me was Scott Hall looked pretty decent in this match. I thought,
sure
and
did.
Looked like himself. And I think partly the familiarity with him and Jarrett from their time before wrestling each other helped. And then, obviously way too convoluted finish. I'm pretty sure that this match was probably laid out strongly by Jarrett, based on the bumps. But
it's a very Memphis-y with all the shenanigans, right?
Right. And I not my cuppa really, but I don't mind ref bumps, but I think you can get to a certain point where it's just too much and it distracts. But honestly,
are you suggesting that 5 in a 7-minute match is too many?
That might be a bit much. A bit much. I mean, you could argue 3 would have been pushing it, but no, there's some good bumps here and stuff. I just didn't, it didn't really come together per se in a coherent match. But again, clever finish. I just wish they would have swapped the two things there. But otherwise, seeing Robot Arm Roddy Piper was a nice surprise. I did not know that was coming.
I didn't either.
So that was pretty neat. And I wish that they had done a spinoff, honestly, focusing on Roddy Piper living on Robot Arm.
Oh yeah.
Robbie Parker. God, that was dumb. Anyway, I was drowning in my hatred for this match while you were talking about it. So
amazing.
Just I can't.
So you were a real fan, huh?
No, I'm going to go ahead and not like this one.
Oh.
I don't know. The ref bumps were annoying to me.
What about the charisma of
Sid
Jeff?
was nothing in it, I'm like,
Oh,
Did you
how
feel
dare
like Jeff Jarrett was a charisma magnet?
ugh, God, I just hate him so much. Um, yeah, I just would rather see Scott Hall, I guess, and Sid.
This was the last time you would see Scott Hall in WCW.
Yeah, so
I do
like,
think they deliberately left Sid out of most of the match because I feel like most of it was Jarrett and Hall wrestling and kind of wrestling around Sid a little bit.
yeah,
But again, it's so short that
yeah, it's very sloppy. Like nobody had enough time to like do anything kind of real, or just like kind of felt half-assed.
the
Um,
Nazi twins just don't add anything to the match either.
well,
They're
I
really,
feel how I feel about the Harris brothers, but yeah, not their best performance either.
What did they
Eh,
really do? I mean,
You know, uh, I could not get into it. And then Piper showing up, what the hell? Um, I, like what are we doing? Like what does anything become of that? Does Piper do anything? Does he have anything to do with
he
Sid going forward?
he actually begins driving around in a police car solving crimes with his robot
Oh God.
while.
hmm.
Yeah.
And then important to note that they took the robot arm away, and then he completely lost all of his relevance at that point.
Right. Right.
Tim,
Well, they
what?
kept the arm and they fired him. The arm continued to appear, but he did not.
So what really happened, Tim? I don't remember Roddy Piper.
That's an impossible question to answer, Greg Phillips and Jennifer Smith.
Mm.
Who knows? Who can say?
Talk about try hard. That match was try not hard enough.
You
So
see, it's
it
the
was
Try
not
Hard
good,
show of
and
2000,
I don't know.
most
Now,
Yeah.
Try Hard main event.
what I want to know, Tim, because you know this, you clearly know this show a lot better than I do, because I don't remember anything about it except the letter T match, which I do remember.
Uh-huh.
But
T
Yep.
match.
what
What the
went?
fuck is that?
What we'll tell you in just a
Well,
moment.
Booker T,
Okay.
lost the
Okay.
right
Tell
to.
me. Tell me before Greg loses his train of thought.
Let what was the what went long in the undercard that led to this main event being so short?
To be honest, I think it was just the fact that it was an 11 match show when it had no reason to be. Like, why are there so many matches on this especially when you've got such a depleted roster? That's what I mean by try hard. It's like they're doing everything to distract you from the fact that this is a promotion that is worn down to the bone, right? They've got nothing. And it's like, yeah, no, we still got plenty of talent. 11 matches, why not? And
Shit.
nothing here goes longer than 10 minutes except for fucking David Flair and Crowbar versus the Mamalukes in a
Gross.
stretcher match. Yeah, that's 11 minutes.
What are we
And then
doing?
honestly, the best match on the show, Flair and Funk.
Go figure.
Imagine, yeah. And a Texas Death Match is a little bit under 16 minutes.
Hmm.
Now, the letter T match, Jenny, is and Tim can fill in the finer details perhaps if I get them wrong, but as I recall from my 16-year-old brain, Booker T's brother Stevie Ray had turned on him, and they were no longer aligned, and so
Mm.
Booker T was feuding with the new Harlem Heat, which was Stevie Ray and
Right.
Big T, who was the former Ahmed Johnson. As I recall, Big T and Booker T were wrestling for the right to control the letter T.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Of
Yeah.
course, you can't have two
Well,
T's, obviously.
because Jay Biggs, the attorney, in fact, for Stevie Ray and Big T, the new Harlem Heat. You see the Harlem Heat franchise, the Harlem Heat Inc., if you will,
Mm.
said that the T in that Booker T essentially was the property of
Oh, I
this
see. It
franchise,
belonged to
the
them.
intellectual property, if you will.
Correct.
So
Gotcha.
Booker is fine because Booker, hey Booker, that is his given name, of
Hmm.
course. But
Hmm.
Booker T is the wrestling character that is legally associated with the Harlem Heat corporation.
And as you know, wrestling fans cared a great deal about this.
Of course. I mean,
Very
obviously,
much so. Very
you have
much
to
so.
really lose sleep over it. I feel like.
Yes. This is what was killing me in 2000 when I was 16 at the time, and I watch every wrestling show that I can get my eyes on. And on the other channel, you're having arguably the best run of television that the WWF ever did over the course of a span of a year. You're getting The Rock and Cactus Jack and Triple H and Undertaker. Well, Undertaker wasn't there, but all these great characters up and down the card. They're having these really interesting blood feuds, and Vince is cutting promos about life not being fair and whatnot. And then you turn on the Nitro, you've got Booker T and Stevie Ray feuding over a damn letter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Are you
Lame.
suggesting that No Way Out 2000 was perhaps a better show than Super Brawl 2000?
A little bit, a little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Somewhat. Just from memory, you're going off here.
Just
I mean,
on memory. Now, I would be
you
interested
have
in
to.
visiting Uncensored 2000 to compare it to
Oh,
disappointing WrestleMania 2000. But perhaps by comparison, WrestleMania 2000 would look much better. I don't know.
well, it's the other big try hard show of the year. So here we are, and I think we tried very hard to get
Yeah.
late era WCW Sid Vicious over here on this podcast. I think we did a fine job of that.
Isn't it
I agree.
interesting that we all three selected late era Sid matches? None of us picked
I
it
know.
for his 93 or 89, 90 runs.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it, but it
Yeah, I
just
did too.
He didn't
I
really
didn't
have
want to have like these huge gaps, right? I didn't want to pick something from 89 and then fast forward all the way to 99 to talk about,
Yeah.
y'all's matches.
Yeah, and then also he didn't really have a lot of competitive matches in those days. Like, which I'm not
True.
opposed to. I love squash matches. I think Sid squash matches are one of the great joys in wrestling. But I don't know. I wanted to revisit this Goldberg match, and then also I thought in general us talking about this is kind of, I think everybody that was watching in those days kind of remembers 89, 90 Sid from the Horseman days and all that. Probably
Mhm.
less so 93 run, but like 99 Sid probably doesn't get talked about enough outside of the the Goldberg cube car videos. But I thought it was an interesting time to revisit because my also I have such a like negative kind of mentality towards 99 WCW because I've always felt that
You
99,
watched it.
yeah, that I watched, and I always felt that like 99 was
Made a
like,
mistake. Same mistake I did.
I always feel like 99 was really the death knell for WCW. Everything else was just slowly marching towards the end after that. And so like
Mm,
I as a result, I don't remember a lot of the stuff from that year. And so now it's like I can go back and watch Sid and be like, boy, he was sure doing Sid things, wasn't he? And
yeah.
again, a lot of this, like we've kind of mentioned, the shows that we watched are kind of like, oh boy, these shows are not good. But I still think that even in the midst of that, Sid was still Sid, and he didn't waver, he didn't change, he never got a new gimmick, he was just Sid. And I
Yeah,
think
man.
there's something admirable about that.
Yeah, I guess that
Okay.
leaves it open for part 2 on Sid. If we have another good run or two that we can look at.
Definitely. I think
So
there's a lot to revisit there. He's got a tag
What
team,
did?
a horseman,
Yeah.
got a Colonel. I'm always down for more Colonel Robert Parker on the show. And
Of
same.
course.
so
Did you guys have some honorable mentions with that in mind?
A couple of things that I looked at was Slamboree 93, Sid versus Van Hammer, and Beach Blast 93, Sid and Vader versus Davey Boy and Sting.
that's pretty good.
Yeah. Saturday night, Sting Flair, Davey Boy versus Harlem Heat Sid.
So I almost picked that match actually because it
Mhm.
sounds so interesting to me on paper.
It's
Mm.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I almost went with going way back to 89, the Skyscrapers days, Sid and Spivey versus the Steiners at that November Clash of the Champions. Sid gets hurt in that match, gets like a punctured rib or something, and
Yeah, from one of the
he's
suplexes, right?
yeah, it's a real hard hitting match. So he goes on the shelf for several months after that, and then gets reintroduced as one of the Horsemen later in 1990, as you talked about, Greg. I also there's a there's a Sid Flair singles match in '93. It's on a November Saturday night, I believe. So I thought probably can't go wrong there, but the problem is it's a Sid match that's longer than 10 minutes.
Oh,
It's like 17 minutes. Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yeah. I did, and I mean it's not terrible, but it really doesn't need to be 17 minutes. And it's got kind of a dumb finish, so I was like, I'm not gonna go there. Um and the other one I considered was so the match where Sid won the US title that he lost to Goldberg at Halloween Havoc. That was against Chris Benoit at what would be considered by some the worst WCW pay-per-view of all time, Fall Brawl 1999. But I guess that was one of the high points on that very maligned pay-per-view. But I didn't feel like doing a Benoit match, so there we go.
Yeah, Sid as far as Sid match, my only honorable mentions were kind to be honest, were squash matches, like Sid
Yeah.
versus Ranger Ross and stuff like that, like stuff that I like seeing Sid destroy people. And
yeah.
very and
Imagine.
silly, but I felt like I would have had to come up with like 4 squash matches to make up one match, So and then I was, as I was thinking about it, the Sting match at Havoc 90 is historically significant, kind of, because it was
It is.
in the midst of Sting's run. It had a very famous, weird finish. And then 93, I thought about the Sting and Davey Boy match, Beach Blast, which I remember being a very fun match. But otherwise, Sid's not a match guy. Sid's
Nah.
aura guy. Sid's a presence guy. Sid is a just
Freak show.
absolutely. Sid is a man of great of hilarious, entertaining promos,
Yes.
top facial expressions, magnetic charisma. Because the thing about Sid was everybody can talk about work rate and talk about technical savvy and talk about being able to tell stories properly on the microphone, things that Sid was not necessarily the best at. But what Sid was always was over. Every
Yep.
bit of his career, he was over. There was something about him, some kind of magnetism about him that made fans gravitate to him, which brings me to one last Sid point I wanted to make and see if you guys agree. I have come to the conclusion over my years of Sid fandom, I think Sid was much better as a babyface than as a heel.
Oh.
Personally.
Ooh,
And let me
Ah.
explain why. I think as a heel, Sid had the problem that people wanted to cheer him because
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
he had the coolest look, he had the coolest mannerisms. He had, quite honestly, he had my favorite power bomb of the guys that did the power bomb as the finish. Anyway, and he wasn't Scott Norton, my God, but he had the coolest finish power bomb between him and Nash. He had the choke slam before most people were doing a choke slam. He was for a while he was the only guy doing the power bomb. He had the cool big boot, the helicopter thingamajig he would do once in a while. He was and he had that again, that charisma, the crazy promos and stuff. He just seemed like a cool ass dude, and so I always liked when he was a babyface and he got to play into that, and he got to really like play up the fact that he was cool and that people wanted to cheer him naturally. Famously, this is not talking 1996 WWF, but famously he goes into the Survivor Series in WWF as a heel against Shawn Michaels and gets cheered over the babyface world champion to the point where Shawn is clearly affected by this reaction by the crowd. And Sid was just organically over everywhere he went. And so I not that I don't think Sid had a place as a heel. His promos maybe you could say were better as a heel. But like, I just think there's something about him as a babyface that just worked. Keep it short, keep it simple, Goldberg like, and Sid was good in that role, in my opinion.
He just looks like such a heel. He just comes across, it just seems to be natural to him to be
I just think of it
very
as
heelish.
a cold thing, like a cool heel, if you will.
Right, yes.
Yeah, I guess that's one of those risks, I suppose, of when you're always over with the crowd, they
Yeah.
always kind of want to cheer you no matter what you're
Mhm.
doing, even to maybe the detriment of another babyface you might be programmed against. But it's not really Sid's fault, is it? So
Nope.
No, it's
good
kind of
on him.
it's kind of the same dilemma whenever they try. What in the later years when Flair always liked working heel, and I always thought he was better as a heel. But by the time the mid '90s rolled around, no WCW fans actually wanted to boo Ric Flair, so
Yeah.
Nope.
made things kind of awkward when he's trying to be the heel, and yet people are wooing and cheering him and booing his opponent and everything. but um, but
What's big?
it's appropriately enough, we were talking about the battle for the letter T because
Yes.
I believe I have the selection for our next show,
You
All
do.
right.
and I think it's time to revisit my beloved tag team wrestling, and I want to focus on a team that we have not had a chance to talk about on this show, which is Booker T and Stevie Ray, the Harlem Heat.
Oh
Whoa.
shit.
Wow. Harlem Heat Inc., huh?
That's
Okay.
right. And that's
Oh
what I was going to say.
shit.
And if you feel the need to include Harlem Heat 2000, you can count
So be it.
and Harlem Heat 2000 for this. But yes, Harlem Heat, we have not addressed them. And I think that the most prolific WCW tag team, the most tag title reigns in WCW history, that team deserves to be recognized on Talk'n WCW. So that's next up in our queue.
I love it. I'm looking at our list right now just to see if we've already covered the match that I want to do. But I think
I
we have.
think I might have an idea what that match is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
think
we
we've
already
done
did
that
it.
one.
Yeah, we did it though. I was like, damn it, I think we've already talked about it. And yes, sadly. Okay, so I'll come up with a second favorite, I guess. But yay, that'll be good. I
It will
wanted to
be.
get into that more
Yes,
anyway.
they came along in '93 at the same time Sid came back, and were a staple of WCW's tag division pretty much all the way up through that the '99 2000 era.
Managed by my favorite,
Yes,
so
Sister
I'll
Sherry.
have fun with that.
Very good. That'll be that'll be a change of pace for us to another tag team. So I will look forward to that. Absolutely.
All right, thank you guys. That was awesome. Like I don't know. I think that we have all found a new appreciation for Sid.
Oh yes, yes. Sid is a man that he really has to be experienced to be understood, because there are some, like my former hard traveling fanboys podcast co-host hates Sid, and
Hmm.
What?
I keep trying to get him to understand the appeal of Sid, but I find a hard time explaining it. But it's
Yeah.
just there's just something about him. There's a magic about Sid that you
Hmm.
can't turn away from. It's like watching a car wreck. It could be, it could be harmless and entertaining, or it could be terrible to watch, but you can't take your friggin' eyes off of Sid. He's amazing in his
Well,
way.
look, no greater an authority than Kevin Nash declared once that if you're a mad scientist in the late 1980s and you went in a lab to create the perfect professional wrestler, just the perfect image of what a professional wrestler is, you would come up with Sid Vicious.
That's awesome.
That's true.
Uh, all right. So, what do you got for podcast coming up? Yeah.
Well, right here on Place Me Nation Wrestling, you and I, Jenny, have another show that is called uh, PTB NXT. That is with Jacob Williams, and we're really enjoying
Mm,
what NXT is serving up these
sure.
2015 weekly television shows, aren't we, Jenny?
We sure are.
So
Sure are, Tim.
can't wait to see what awaits us on the next episode of that fine podcast.
Mhm.
Another fine podcast that we do together. It's a new podcast, and it is carried by the North-South Connection by way of the Jenny Physician on Wednesdays. Not every Wednesday, but you can look for Exposition, an X-Men podcast. X-Men and other
Yes.
media, X-Men and pop culture, focusing right now, currently, we've just started coverage of X-Men, the animated series from the early 1990s. Our first episode was on the pilot, Night of the Sentinels Part 1. We're going to be hitting up Night of the Sentinels Part 2. Our next episode will be joined by a rotating panel of co-hosts for that one because a lot of people want to get in on that action. So a lot of fun there on Exposition on North-South Connection. I also do, in affiliation with the North-South Connection, 9021 No So. That is on its own dedicated podcast feed. So just search 9021 No So as the name implies. It is a 90210 retrospective that I do with JT Rosero, going episode by episode through Beverly Hills 90210. We're getting towards the end of the second season now, so things are really heating up. I'm liking each and every show that we do more and more with the big love triangle of the summer about to drop.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, it's
Now,
going to change everything.
now was that what this was? This was Brenda, Dylan, and Kelly.
Yep.
Yeah, you bet.
Mm.
Yep. We're gonna have
The
some.
Holy Trinity, some might say.
We're
Yes.
gonna have some beach club action once again. We're gonna have some Dean Kane in Paris, France.
Oh my God, Dean Kane. Fucking
We're
love
gonna
Dean Kane.
have we're gonna have some tension perhaps for David and Donna with the
Mm.
introduction of Nikki, right?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
So I
that
can't wait.
slut.
Can't wait. And Big Jim, of course, is
Oh
gonna have some
shit.
strong feelings about Brenda and Dylan's relationship and where things
He does not
ultimately
like
end up
Dylan.
with them.
Dylan is too much of a rogue, in his opinion.
Too much of a maverick, perhaps.
Isn't he though? He's way too cool for
A
all of these people.
scoundrel. He's too cool for all of us, honestly.
Especially for fucking Daddy Walsh. He is the squarest motherfucker. Like,
Yeah. Well, what he needed was a distraction. Look, you get Daddy Walsh in front of that Casio and just give
yeah,
him a
watch him.
hobby, and his
He
kids
loves
don't exist.
karaoke.
Oh my God. Between the karaoke and the the keyboard, like he just needs a hobby, and he don't care what his kids are doing as long as he's having fun. So that was
Yeah, well,
the problem,
I
I
enjoy
think.
that spirit, but I don't know.
What's Nat? What's
Yeah.
Nat up to?
Nat's just holding it down. He tried. I mean, mentioned karaoke. He tried a karaoke experiment to liven things up at the Peach Pit. Receipts weren't necessarily to his liking. As we get into the summer months, you have to understand that people aren't eating in town. At the
Right.
Peach
Right.
Pit, they're at the beach club. He's losing business, so
Mm,
he's got to trot out all these little gimmicks every now and then. But karaoke kind of, let's just say it wore out its welcome very fast,
it attracts a
and
certain crowd, yeah.
it attracts a certain crowd, and Nat had to declare that at the end of the day, the Peach Pit is a juke joint. He can't lose. Look, he can't
It's a
lose
juke
that
joint.
Oh,
youth patronage, and the
oh.
youth were
The
threatening to
youths
revolt.
love the jukes. Gee,
The youths were threatening to revolt because of the karaoke.
yeah,
They were not having it.
This is a
So,
sign of aging, I think. I
yeah.
would 100% be down for a spinoff about Nat trying to get his finances right running the Peach Pit.
oh
Oh,
sure.
shit.
I mean, it does propel many subplots of the show. I think when
Yeah.
he goes down with a heart attack at one point, so Dylan like becomes his financier. And then of course you get into the Peach Pit after dark, which
Oh yeah.
he didn't really run the club side of it, but he was a co-owner, as I understand, right?
Right.
So he's getting receipts off of that.
That was a wild success at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, uh-huh. Carries the later seasons of the show. He
Yeah.
gets married to some old broad who they have a
Oh
kid
shit.
somehow.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, she was in like her 70s. Yeah,
The world's longest
God.
promo for a podcast, but
sure
anyway.
is.
Yes.
Anyway,
Oh, sorry.
check out 902 on NoSo, where we're in season 2 of this 10 season, 32 episodes a season, primetime team drama. You can find me on X, Twitter, whatever, Psych68, CYKE68. Am I done, Jenny?
I think so. We're toast, baby.
Yeah.
Um, Greg, do you have any podcasts
I
or a
don't.
podcast
I'm
plan?
actually, funnily enough, I am doing a podcast, but it's not anything I'm ever going to advertise. It's something I'm doing for my old shoot job that I'm doing as a favor because I'm an idiot, and
Oh,
Oh,
I
okay.
have to do that this Friday. But that's not of any note to anybody else that no one will
Okay.
listen to this in a million years. So, other than that, no, people can find me on the Twitter. Well, I don't know what it's called now. The Twitter thing,
Right.
no one does.
gphillips8652. Or you could. Well, that's about it. Yeah, that's about all I have. So.
All right. Uh, Quickly for me, October is the start of Freak Out Drive-In month. So every Wednesday in October, you can hear an episode of Freak Out Drive-In, which is a live watch horror movie. Horror movie live watch. There you go. It's
There we
been a
are.
long night. And
Yep.
those are very good. So listen to those in the month of October. I'm on Twitter, X, whatever, at Jenny Position. And thank you guys, and thank y'all for listening, and we'll see you next time.